So I don't know if we had anybody who was going to be leading a meeting. I thought that I think that we're having that this is just an informal meeting compared to our business meeting. So it doesn't need to be called to order, doesn't need to be adjourned, and we can talk about whatever we want, I think. But Mary has created an agenda.
Yeah, I just need official like call to order and things like that. But we do have a agenda for guiding the conversation. But if we go beyond that agenda, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, this should be up to Jeremy. Jeremy presides over our meetings. He's the president. So
Yeah, what
being
do you
past
think, Jeremy?
president, I can say that, I guess.
Yes. So the reason why we wanted to have these is because we wanted to be able to kind of get a time to get together and kind of support our PPA membership. So, like last time we had people that had questions, we kind of did a round robin to see like what everybody's doing, new things that are happening, and just kind of keep abreast of things in the planetarium world because it's not we're a lot of times an isolated entity, and it's nice to have colleagues to talk to. So that's why we opened these up in the first place, was to do that. So that was kind of the reason behind having these in the first place, quarterly. And so I don't mind telling you all about what's going on in our planetarium, and then um, we can go to the agenda, or do the agenda first and then talk about our planetariums, or what's happening, and then any needs or anything too. So, any
I put the
suggestions?
link to the agenda in the chat, and I'm actually copying the whole agenda into the chat just for the heck of it. I think I'm copying it into there. Maybe it's too much for the chat. Oh, probably too big. Maybe it's the formatting that it won't copy and paste.
Maybe share the page.
Yeah, I put the link to the page
Okay.
in the chat, and it was also in Mary's email.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so let's see if this works. Okay, there's the first agenda item that I put in the chat. It's just conferences.
Mm.
This is assuming, Jeremy, an answer to your question is that let's just go through the agenda first.
And
Sure. Let's do
the
that.
agenda document is commentable. So if people have additional anything that they want to add, they can add comments to that document.
Is the Digistar users group, are they meeting in 2025? I kind of feel like they are. Might be one to add.
Yeah, Jeremy, you should probably have edit access since it's stored in the PPA Google account, but I don't know that for sure.
Actually, now that I immediately think, if we have Digistar users group, should we have every single manufacturer's users group if they have meeting?
Yeah.
But
Well, and that might be useful for our group, since we all have different systems, but we don't have to include it here. But there is another one that's coming up. Yeah, Dome Fest. Somebody even put it in the chat. I was going to mention that one too.
Well, then there's all kinds of dome fests all over the world all the time. And what about Star
Yeah.
Moose? And what about
Talk about the big ones.
yeah.
The ones we'll attend.
Say, speaking of conferences, or are we meeting in Las Vegas next year? PPA?
Hopefully.
Good.
We've got an interim president right now. We've got new president coming in July 1, and I can't get permission to even go out and raise money for trying to upgrade my system. So if you guys want to come, yeah, sure, but I can't guarantee you that I'm going to be able to make anything official because of the way that our administration is. So it kind of kills me.
Mhm.
When do you think you might know?
Uh, after July 1,
Huh.
and so probably August, September, something like that. I might be able to get some sort of a push to allow me to at least hear whether they're willing to let me do this or not. So, yay.
Since
Uh,
it's been brought up, maybe we have a discussion about this. So people have had conferences, obviously. I know John hosted IPS even. How far out do you feel like we need? I mean, obviously as early as possible, but when should we kind of like say, let Andrew off the hook and say, don't push from here?
You
Is
know,
there a timeline?
I think it
Anybody's
depends a lot on whether you're going to make it a Western Alliance conference or just a PPA conference. That could make a big difference in how much lead time, and if you were, grouping with other groups too. So yeah, the more people, the more lead time I think you need. Just my guess, just roughly. Anybody else?
Yeah, we certainly need to give other groups time to come out and plan for it. For us, we're more local, I guess, but I don't know.
Sorta.
I guess if we're going to get
Whole
sponsorship,
Western
they'll want
US.
it. Yeah. And for sponsors, I guess you'd need more time.
Hmm.
Although I don't know that for sure.
And
So we can
given,
plan for just that.
given my dome situation as well, with projectors that are 13 years discontinued and still running on Digistar 5, which is on Windows 7. If anybody else wants it, please take it, because I mean, I would feel a lot better if I had projectors that everyone would come and go, oh, hey, not bad, rather than, oh, hey, well, you're keeping them together with duct tape and chewing gum. Good for you.
Well, sometimes that's useful and see how other people do that because that's you're not the only one doing that sort of thing quite
Oh,
often.
no, I know I'm not
Yeah.
the only one.
Anyway,
The planetarium world is very good at making do with what we have.
Yeah, along those lines and along the lines of a conference is that, and I'm not really making any concrete suggestions, like, because I'm not at Lawrence Hall of Science. Well, I am at Lawrence Hall of Science, but I'm not in any powerful position there. So, Mary actually is more, but even she's not calling the shots in terms of whether or not we could have a conference there. Cal Academy is all, a likely candidate, and there's lots of candidates. But to what you were saying, Andrew, you,
Well, I would not say Kyle Academy is a good candidate at this moment, but yeah.
but none of us here are to, we can't speak for Cal Academy. But what I was going to say is, Andrew, you said if people want to come to Las Vegas, that's great, but you can't make any promises about the planetarium. That's an interesting point because we have had meetings that were not at planetariums at all. And specifically, the one that usually we refer to when the issue comes up is Half Dome, only a Half Dome, which was the name of the conference at Yosemite. Um, and
which were well attended.
it was a perfectly good conference. We had portable planetariums, but we didn't even need those, to have a decent conference.
I
Yeah,
have
I
my
think we had two of them in Yosemite.
So anyway, we could, that frees us up a little bit. Even, whether it be Las Vegas or someplace else, we can meet.
And
I
I
think
mean,
in that
I I can always do it
situation,
unofficially.
yeah. I was
What
going to
about Reno?
that all this that we're talking about is more likely to be just a straight PPA conference, which
Yeah.
would be fine. We haven't done that in a long time.
Reno is getting ready to get an LED dome. They had a donor come to them and offer them to upgrade them. Uh, so uh, they're supposed to possibly be getting it installed in May. That's at
Who's up
least
there
the
now?
latest update. It McFarland,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Paul McFarland. He and his wife had run the Challenger Center in Reno, and then
Yeah, I did an interview with him. Yeah.
They hired him to take over the planetarium, and then she ended up there just maybe about 9 months ago, roughly, which makes me figure that the Challenger Center is probably gone in Reno. I haven't heard anything officially on that, but since they're both there at Fleischmann now, I'd say the Challenger Center is probably disbanded. So, just a hunch.
And Jim Todd up in Portland keeps saying he's interested, but I haven't been able to get anything specific going with him. But um, he's talked about it a lot. So there's a possibility there, I guess, one were to pursue it, maybe.
Well, maybe we need to open it up to everyone and say, okay, we're looking for a spot. We want a PPA conference, and just have everybody put in some bids and say, I mean, not bids, but
Mm-hmm.
a formal proposal, maybe
Yeah.
something like that, and we can kind of go from there. And maybe that would help Andrew as well, if you had something more like that, because you can take that to an official and say, hey, this is something we can do. So maybe as president, I need to do that. So
Oh.
I'll
Or
talk to
appoint
Carl
somebody.
about it. Yeah, I'll appoint people. That's right. You reminded me. Yeah,
Uh,
so I think that's
I'm just putting in the chat the next agenda item in case whenever we're ready to be done with conferences.
I just had one comment, like for people who are coming farther, it would be nice if something like a LIPS day or something could be attached to a PPA meeting,
Hmm.
just to make it more beneficial for the trip.
Yeah.
And I think that would attract more people too.
I have to talk to Carrie, but she seems to
Yeah,
be
or Andy. And it may not be just a day. I mean, it could be more than that. It could be the actual LIPS event or whatever, but I guess it's already mapped out for the next couple of years. So the main summer LIPS.
Yeah, we're actually having a LIPS in Europe this year.
That's right.
First time ever. And next year it will be in Florida at Seminole State. Derek Demeter is going to host. And we're hoping to have first ever in Canada the year after that.
Oh, wow.
But I think Rosemary's point's a very good one, which is that if we can tie more than one event to it, I think we'll get more people. But we're PPA, so I think we should plan for that first and then see what we can do.
Yeah, it's just like a mini LIPS, like the GLIPA conference does one day before the real conference starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Alan's mentioned and Carl have mentioned something about having a bad bad get together or something. So if we ended up in the Bay Area, maybe we'll do a little tour around the Bay Area and visit some other planetariums. I know we did a little bit of that long ago too. It was like not just go to planetariums. I remember in Southern California, we toured Mount Wilson Observatory and went to planetariums, and yeah, it'd be nice to maybe I really need to get to Griffith. I'll get down there a weekday, maybe maybe even Friday. I don't know. I'll have to talk with who's going to be there. Maybe give Patrick a call, or even Dr. Krupp, and go visit them and see if they'd be interested in anything. So
That'd be
probably
great.
not, but it's
Well,
been
it's
a
good.
while since I've been there.
Yeah.
Hey, having lips in one day before a conference, that reminds me, and this is not an suggestion or anything, but it's just a story. There was a one-day lips before the IPS conference in Berlin, and I was signed up to do one of the presentations, uh, which was on audience activities shows, actually Alan Friedman's legacy kind of thing. But the day that Diane and I were supposed to fly out there was the day of the computer software day from hell. Remember? Uh, and we
I
made it
remember.
from San Francisco to Munich, but then our flight from Munich to Berlin was canceled. We spent the night in Munich, but we were able to get an early morning flight and actually made it to the presentation, which was like 11 a.m. that first day. It's just a little story.
Right. All
This
right.
is an informal meeting. We can say whatever we want.
Well done.
You could have almost driven from Berlin to Munich.
Well, some people did.
Yeah.
Took a cab or
Take the
whatever.
train.
There was a band. Actually, we were in line, long line, trying to, get things. I don't know if any of you have had that experience. It's not something I recommend. But in the line there was a there's music group that was like one of the first techno rock bands, I think it was. But these were black guys, older guys, and they were like the very first that were in Detroit, I think, and they were bringing them to Berlin for a concert. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. At least I learned something about the history of music in there.
So I remember your presentation in Montreal and Carolyn Sumner's as well. That I remember there were some presentations about live stuff. Then I think that was pre-Lips, but it's always been an interest, and it's always great to see people present and talk about different styles of planetarium presentation.
Yeah, the one in Montreal, there's another whole set of memories. I don't want to dominate, but that was one where I said I would do audience participation in a big dome. And I had never done audience participation in a big dome. So some of them worked and they all worked, but some better than others.
Well, we appreciated that. That made it real because we've all been there. If we hadn't, we were certainly going to be.
Let's
all
see.
Right.
I put the next agenda item was about PPA webinars. I don't know. Rosemary, did you want to say something about that?
Just that we're always interested in ideas. Alan and I usually come up with some, but getting some ideas from other people is also great. And we're booked through May, and then we haven't really scheduled anything yet beyond that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now. It's in fact, this month we have Ellen Thompson from Lawrence Hall of Science doing talking about their show, their current show, their latest show called The Sun's Fury. And it's celebrating the solar maximum. April 25th, the last Friday in April, is Caves in Domes by Kachun Yu, who has become kind of an expert at making full dome images of, I guess it's caves. Yeah.
Wow. Spelunking in a dome, huh?
But not just, well, I think actually it says it's caves other places than Earth
Oh.
also. So that could be interesting. And then in May, the last Friday of May, May 30th, Astronomy for Peace with uh,
Who's doing that?
Ken Brandt.
Oh.
He did like Andy. He Ken did a American in Italy or a week in Italy for usually an American, but actually I don't know what are the rules. Hey Andy, what are the rules about a week in Italy?
It is American, yeah.
It's just Americans. Okay.
Yep. Although they may change the rules.
That's the second rule. We can change the rules. All right, so that was the second agenda item. Do we have a third?
Actually, something came up. I just thought, actually, just today I was thinking about, I've been working with Evergreen Valley College, doing a interview with those guys and writing up a thing. By the way, is the Great Western Observer out yet? Does anybody know? I didn't see anything from Jack.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I didn't either.
put an article in.
Oh, hey Andrew, did our stuff get in?
I think it did.
I mean, it got emailed to.
Yeah, it got emailed
to Jack. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Now that you're saying it, I'm always double thinking. And
yeah, right. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Did I actually send that in? So
anyway, my thought was Celso Batala at Evergreen Valley College has been working for quite a number of years trying to do outreach in their area to bring more students into the community college in STEAM areas, especially astronomy, trying to pick up his astronomy club. Anyway, he's done a lot of different things that are really interesting. And I thought that might make a good, I haven't approached him about it or anything yet, but I was thinking about trying that. That would be interesting. Now, it's mostly, they don't have a planetarium there yet, but they are, one of his things right now is they have a portable planetarium. And he has some of his astronomy students doing outreach to groups to try to stimulate people and kids in high school and middle school to get interested in astronomy to help kind of pick up their science programs at the college.
Hey, I just remembered. I promised that I was going to say that we have a sign-in sheet. Mary wanted me to do this. And anybody who came in late, a lot of you already signed in. But if you came in late, like, I don't know, Nick, if you signed in. Romy, is that how you pronounce your name? Yeah. Just sign in where you are, that you're here. Actually, we don't even need to know where you're from, but presumably we can look that up if we need to.
Anyway, do you think that would be something that would be interested to the planetarium community? Because it's not specific to planetarium, but they do have a portable now, and they're using that. It's his latest attempt to do outreach for the science programs.
I encourage any planetarium to come and lead a seminar. And on any topic, including what you're up to right now, or what's happening at your planetarium.
Well, he's been doing stuff for a number of years now, even paying students who would come and take programs and do do things there that you get $500 if they could complete this program. I thought that was kind of interesting. He gets grants for this stuff too, which I think is something that could be interesting to people. So anyway, I'll see if he's interested in doing that. I guess we can move on.
Let's see the next. Well, I'll put the next item in the chat in case you're not following along on the agenda page.
And the next item is about the business meeting. So it's an election year. Isn't it every year? I don't know, because we just had an election, right? Last
Every
year.
2 years.
Yeah, it's every 2 years. And I think it might be time for an election, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, odd number of years, I think so.
Okay, so
Sometime.
we have to look for agenda. Sorry, I'm reading the election agenda. Sorry. So it's an election year, and then we have last year our business meeting was a hybrid at Glippawa for the same for this year. Okay. Any comments on any?
Is WAC officially going to be with Clippa again, or has that not been decided yet?
For this year?
Yeah, I think it's official.
Okay.
For this year, yeah.
St. Paul, December 7th through 11th, it says on the first agenda item.
Yeah.
You know,
2020 decided it is.
it kind of depends on who's going, how many people are going, and if there's anybody who goes who is willing to host a hybrid.
Were you planning to attend, Jeremy?
I think I am. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to try to get to that one. That's the one on October, right?
Yeah. I still have our little
So-
Zoom, the PPA Zoom speaker microphone unit.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think yeah, unless budgets change, they know I put in for it already, so we'll see.
In that case, since our president is going to be there, we should definitely make this a hybrid meeting because not everybody can be there.
I like that better too because we get to include more of our people. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
And what I said earlier, I take it back. I am not certain that somebody there has to host the meeting. It could be that technically the host is anywhere. But you do have to, like Carl said, you do kind of have to set up that sound, to have the sound good enough for the people there.
So I can hold a PPA meeting in Virginia. Woo!
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Why not? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are we ready for the next? Things moving?
The next one is
Anything else about that? Okay, looks good. So let's move to the next.
I'll paste it in the chat. This one is kind of a little bit more, shall we say, broader subject matter.
Mary, did you put that in there?
She's on mute.
Uh,
And she's in traffic.
oh,
She
okay.
might even not be.
I'm just wondering kind of what she had in mind there, and maybe she
Yeah,
could.
don't depend on Mary too much right at the moment because
Well, let's have
Yeah, we can work with it.
go. Yeah, I was going to say, uh, this would be a good segue to use for going our kind of our round robin where we can talk. I'll talk to everyone individually, so ask each person to speak. But this might be a good talking point if you can't think of anything else.
I like that
Um,
idea. But I can also speak for Mary and tell you where this item came from.
Hmm.
okay.
I suggested it and then she put it
Oh,
in.
oh, okay. Well, maybe you can elaborate on what you had in mind there. I didn't actually
Elaborate.
read it word for word, but the sense of
No,
it.
I just saw the agenda minus this was pretty straightforward and didn't lead to any broad general discussion. And so that was the purpose of this. And Jeremy saw it right away.
All right. So I can tell you a little bit. We're definitely have meetings about budgets and things with there even being a proposal of disbanding, the Department of Education. We're dependent on that through California. California gets its money from the federal government, and then it's dispersed out all over California for elementary school. And I'm an elementary school district K to 8. They're usually K to well, not I shouldn't say usually, but they're K to 12 often, but some split at some point, and they do more high school and then elementary. Middle school gets thrown either way, but it definitely affects how things are going. I mean, um, and and what that actually means, I don't know because Congress has to back disbanding the Department of Education, so they would have to do that. Yeah, I mean, you can make proclamations all day long, but without or proposals, but Congress has to do that. So how that affects us, we're not sure yet. California certainly has um, a big say in things, being like one of the biggest in the U.S. For education, um, biggest state. So yeah, we're definitely having meetings about it and talking about it and wondering what's going to happen. Um, so where do you get accurate information? We get it from the California Department of Education. So we're getting what's passed down to all the schools and all the school districts. Um, we are funded directly through the school district. So I'm an employee of the school district. Our planetarium's owned by them. And we just renovated the planetarium. So we pretty much spent money on the planetarium. Now it's just staffing it and keeping it open for our students. So as long as we have a school district, I think we're okay. And that would take a lot to change the whole system, I think, but who knows at this point. Cam, are we being affected by restrictions or idea efforts? Again, we're in California, so not much yet. Um, yeah, and it's hard to know with demographics and things how this will affect like the number of students that we have in our district because that certainly matters. Um, yeah, it's a big. It's certainly being talked about a lot. It's certainly a concern, and and we're very aware of it. So um, beyond that, I mentioned that we're working on the planetarium. We have most everything done for our remodel, which we started like almost 2 years ago. We're on the last really large thing, which is to have our planetarium re-roofed. So we got to protect all the equipment and everything. So makes sense. We don't get a lot of rain here, but when we do, it all comes at once. So in the desert. That's how it works. So it's certainly a concern. And so fortunately, we're doing that part of it as well. Um, our chairs are all installed, and if you ever want to see how you can get 110 spaces under a 40-foot dome, you can look at our plans. We actually had the owner of the company that um, um, come out and do the layout for the planetarium. He said they were laying out 3 stadiums in different states. And he said, well, I said, why are you here then? Well, shouldn't you be at one of those? And he goes, oh no, we do stadiums all the time. We don't do planetariums that often, so I have to make sure our guys get it right. So I
Yeah.
appreciated that. And then showed him our old seating, and he goes, oh, I lived in Palmdale during that time, and I remember installing those seats. I didn't before, but I saw the picture, and I know because those are our seats. And so he was really excited about that. And it was nice to have he said his grandfather started the company.
Wow.
And so it was quite amazing to have that level of expertise in our planetarium. Made me feel better, about everything going well. And
What company
so
is that, Jeremy?
well, we ordered from Cedia. I'm not sure which company it was that installed, but I assume that they were hired by Cedia, and he knew a lot about the seats. Um, and Cedia, I don't think is from California, so I was a little confused by that. But the guy who does all of the laying out and installation of all the seating, he said they go all over and install like theaters, movie theaters, and obviously stadiums and things. So I don't think they manufacture the seats, but they do all the installation. Um, so sorry, I didn't know the actual company, but I can find out because it was one of our contractors. So, yeah, what else did we do? We had Ash clean the dome. That was a really big deal. We had all the seating out and all the carpet out, and so they were able to drive around in here. And it's interesting. I didn't realize when you have your dome cleaned, they can actually repaint it, but you don't really. Sometimes you need it repainted, but sometimes you don't know. And so for us, we had stains in the planetarium, and so they weren't terrible, but it would have been nice to repaint them. We had other issues where the only one that I know of that has actual felt on the back of the dome, and then we have insulation behind that. And so to paint the dome, they would have to pull out all the felt because any little pieces of felt that are there will show up as soon as you paint it, and you don't want that at all. Um, so you'd have to remove all of that and then decide if you're going to put it back or paint everything behind the dome black. And we weren't really set up for doing that. So, but they said we had I think it was 3 years after being cleaned to make a decision of if we wanted to paint it. And it was kind of the same rate cleaning and painting because it's just the additional cost of paint, they said. But it's mostly their time, and that was the important thing. So shout out to Ash for cleaning our dome. It looks really great. Certainly made it a lot brighter. And then, the carpeting and installing the seats, that was a big deal. And then we had ENS come out and tune up the planetarium. So it's nice to have that all done. And now we're doing some just little bit of furniture, and with the state of a modern dome, you don't have to have big, huge control areas. So it's more about computer screens. So we have that, more of a computer area, and then having access to power and things like that. So it's been a pretty good upgrade. We did all of our projectors and everything beforehand. So that was a year ago, last August. So we've had that for a little bit. Yeah, so those are the things going on here, and just trying to keep up with everything. And it's the busy time of the school year. We're actually on spring break this week, which I didn't expect. It just came out of nowhere, right? It's been on the calendar forever, but just comes out of nowhere when you're busy. And then we have the history of flight on a plaza outside the planetarium. And so on the 25th, we're going to have an open house with the planetarium and the plaza. It's a pretty amazing thing. It has a history of flight. And then the person who designed, I'm trying to think of the Red Bull. It'll come to me. It's like Sage. And then there's another part afterwards. It's like Sage something. Sage Cheshire. They designed the capsule that went up with Red Bull, person who dove out. But the person who designed that capsule actually did the installation out there. He's a local. We have a lot of locals here in the aerospace. And so he came out and we did that.
Hey, Jeremy.
So think of
Jeremy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a comment that, well, actually, Mary put this in the chat that we probably need to go around and people can't take as long
Yeah.
as
So
and
I
if we're
tell you
going to get
what,
through everybody by
yeah. So I mentioned a lot. I should have just done one or two things. So yeah, and we have some people that probably have some very big questions. So should definitely do that. Okay. So yeah, that and we have the lunar eclipse event. So I'll leave it there.
probably good to have somebody hand the baton off to other people. Who wants to do that?
A person pass it to the next person. So I'll pass it to our new person so we can give them the time. Romy, would you like, if I said that correctly, would you like to say anything or introduce yourself or pass it to the next person?
Yeah, I'll just jump in really briefly. Wanted to share that we did update our chairs earlier this year, minor things. We had a bunch of closures, so I'm excited to hopefully go to this next fiscal year without any closures for our planetarium and be able to have a full year of running smoothly. But I don't think that's ever completely the case as what I've seen over the last 2 years. Otherwise, we haven't been really affected directly. At the museum or in our planetarium. Since we are part of a larger museum, though, news about IMLS cuts and things like that have potentially affected funding for back of house collections. We used to have a lot of Native Hawaiian education program funds, and so thankfully we've wrapped up a bunch of those projects, but really just sitting and hoping. And then for us working with some of the local NOAA folks, like we have a science on a sphere, just trying to keep in touch with our local NOAA office. We're trying to do paired internships where we're like a site where we can have some of their interns over and they can present and facilitate and activate our space a bit. So just ideas of keeping those relationships, but also monitoring that's where kind of the federal impact has been so far. So thankfully doing okay at this point. I will pass it on. Next on my screen is Andrew.
So me, we did worked with NASA. They did a thing for national parks employees to actually have them learn to make their own night sky programs for visitors. Needless to say, that was at the end of February, so it was kind of a bit of a downer. But all the folks were great, and we had a great chance to do that. So if NASA Earth and Sky ever contacts you about doing something like that, it's well worth the ability to do it. And I am just trying to raise $400,000. I want those laser phosphor projectors. I want upgraded system, and we are going to apply to the city of Las Vegas to try and make some shows about the history of Las Vegas and see if we can get some money from Las Vegas to actually help us with that, because they're not the foundation is not being forthcoming with permissions about me going out and asking for money. So just the standard stuff like that. And if John Allen contacts you about doing Stardust, I put that show together for him. I actually helped him create it. So if you can afford it, feel free to bring him in. And I am the tech support on Stardust. So just to let you guys know. So I will pass to Rosemary, I guess.
So first of all, on the information, misinformation, disinformation aspect, I have two concerns. One is that it's going to be harder to get resources like from NASA and stuff when the budget's being cut. The Europeans may step up and they provide good stuff already, but I don't know how the NASA support for planetariums and museums is going to work out. And the other is just on issues like climate change. Um, I don't know how the audiences are going to be affected if there's, if it turns out there's extreme misinformation going out to the public. So it's not so much what we do as who we encounter in the audience, whether that's going to change more. On the planetarium side, I've spoken about this some before. The city took over the building from the school after they consolidated, and the final vote for the future of the building hasn't happened yet, but it's still pretty optimistic that the planetarium will survive, even if part of the building gets demolished because it's an old building. And so there's more interaction with the city, which is good, trying to get more support because we're just volunteers who run a planetarium in a city building. We have the projector, they have the building, and applied for some city grants for the next year, which is the first time because it's the first time I heard of them. And budget's going to be tight, you know. So I don't expect to get everything, but I am hopeful I'll get at least part of it. And these are small grants compared to what most of you are discussing. And the other thing is that the things going on with the Department of Education are bound to put more stress on the local schools and on teachers. So any attempt I have to get teachers more involved in the planetarium, like participating as opposed to just bringing their classrooms, um, is unlikely. I think they're just going to have too much on their plates to try to start working with the planetarium for like content for their classes. And instead, we'll just rely on us to do all the programming. So those are the things that I see around here. And pass it on to Andy.
Andy, you're on mute. Sorry, I was on mute when I said that.
I was just saying I should pass it on to Benjamin if he's still on. Since I'm mostly doing dark sky advocacy stuff where we just finished a lighting ordinance for the city of Santa Cruz that we hope to get passed. But yeah, not doing much in the planetarium. I'm actually selling my portable planetarium system to Josh Roberts, if you know him. So he's going to take that over. But
Where is he from?
formerly of Cal Academy.
Oh, okay. I thought the name sounded familiar.
Yeah, and then he got a job at NASA, and situation is such that he'd like to kind of speed up this process. He was wanting to start it earlier, but I should pass it to Benjamin. He unmuted, so hopefully he's there.
Yeah, it's up here. So we're busy teaching classes. We're trying to reopen our doors to the public. We were open last spring, but we found that our theater control system wasn't quite adequate to the task. So we were hoping they'd have all the programming done in January, but it's been dragging on a little bit. Anyway, we've got a few programs for the public coming up. We're doing what they're calling a STEAM festival: science, technology, engineering, art, math, and design. And we'll probably, in fact, I need to talk to Andy about hosting a few programs for that. But as soon as they finish their programming, we're going to try and reopen the doors. So that's the short version.
All right.
And I don't know who to pass it off to, so someone take it.
I see Nick turned on his
Where's Nick?
camera.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
Nick.
can share what's happening here at Bakersfield College. The As far as looking at, I guess the funding situation with the planetarium itself, our funding comes from the state, but we're at a community college, and so I think what will be the effect mostly will be with federal financial aid for the students. But as far as what happens with the planetarium itself, that's state money. So hopefully, we'll still be going fine on that. With the California Community College system, they are really they are resisting the stuff with the Trump administration about doing away with DEI. They're definitely still very strongly in favor of that with the chancellor's office. Um, and of course, a lot of the community colleges, all of the administration, the faculty, and classified staff still strongly behind all of our students from all different backgrounds, because that's what community colleges do. Um, the That's the new thing I guess we're doing here. We actually started in the fall was having Mesmerica doing some shows. And last fall, since I'm the only one that does the planetarium here at BC, and I'm teaching 80% of my time. I didn't want that. They would love to do it every single night of the year, and it's like, well, I'm the one that's running the planetarium, and I'm not going to have anyone else. That they're not going to have anybody coming off the street to run my equipment. It's like, no. So I'll be the one that's taking care of that. So last fall I did it in September, on the Saturdays of September. And then this semester I decided, well, I would do it on the first Fridays and Saturdays of the month, for February, March, and April. And then I'll do it again September, October, November, December, doing that with Mesmerica. That has brought in a number of folks that have never come to the planetarium before. So that's been really good. Letting people know.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
uh, I want to, in my note-taking hat, with my note-taking hat, Mes America? What?
Mesmerica.
Oh, as in,
Not
as
Mesoamerica.
a,
As
as
in
Mezzo, but without the,
right. It's Mesmerica. Put out by well, I think if you look up like Change Worlds, Change Worlds would be the company. They now have it. James Hood is the composer for it. It's one of these that has all sorts of real cool imagery, and then this music that uses like the steel drum, or I think whatever they call that thing that looks like a shield, upside down shield, and you pop, pop, pop on it. Sort of sounds like a steel drummy type of a thing with a lot of other music. So it's really good meditative type of a music. So um, anyway,
I think I remember seeing an advertisement for Mes
oh, I wouldn't be
long
surprised. They have
ago.
an extremely good advertising regime. It's like people that I was like, where the heck are you finding out about this? Because we hadn't advertised it, but they do a really good job. However they do it, they know. So, but it was really good to get some folks that hadn't come to the planet, hadn't even heard of the planetarium before. Even though we've been around since 1962, and I write for our local newspaper and whatever, there are a lot of people that still don't know about the planetarium, and but they they were able, Mesmerica was able to tap into a lot of different, Facebook feeds, I guess. That's, I think is where people were finding it. And they're paying the money to make sure it's popping up there closer, top of the timeline. So, but then we also do just also the regular planetarium evening shows for the public, as well as all the field trips. You know, I I don't know how the new regime that we're under, how that's going to affect field trip funding. Um, I guess we'll see, next semester, next school year to see what happens with that. At least right now, all the funds are encumbered, and so people are still coming to that. Um, yeah, so I'll pass it on to. Well, let's see. Actually, it would be either Mary or Carl who wants to do that. I think I haven't shared their individual things yet. So
Well, if Mary isn't in traffic, let her take the opportunity. Are you available, Mary?
she said Carl first, laughing out loud. So
Okay. Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay. Yeah, I don't have much to say other than what I was mentioning before. This this last for the last Great Western Observer, I wrote an article in a visit with Evergreen Valley College. I don't know, you guys know where that is? I didn't really. It's in southern San Jose, and it's a beautiful campus. It's amazing. It's really a lot of modern buildings. They have a really nice observatory, and they have public nights at the observatory. And I had heard that they were planning to build a planetarium there, so I wanted to introduce the PPA to them, and kind of let them know we're here to help and doing whatever we can. And I kind of fell into this thing where they're actually in the middle of doing an outreach with a portable, an inflatable, and they had not done that before. And so I was kind of in on their learning how to inflate it and get it all going. And they're having the astronomy students actually do presentations to local groups. Anyway, it was really
What kind of
fascinating.
portable do they have, Carl?
Yeah, it's a 20-foot, it's a Star Lab. And I thought Star Lab was out of business. I thought that was Learning Technologies, remember? Well, apparently Star Lab's still around. And they had a really nice fisheye projector inside. And
Starlab was bought by a company called Science First. And I don't know if they were bought by somebody else. But that.
Well, anyway, it was actually through a grant through SETI Institute. So that was pretty interesting. So a lot of SETI people are involved with that. In fact, they're the lead in the grant itself. A couple of folks from SETI Institute. So I wrote the article. It should be in the Great Western Observer this next issue, and that's what I've been doing. Guess that's about it. Mary, are you available yet?
Yeah, hopefully there's not too many loud sounds from being in the train station, but Lawrence Hall Science is doing well. We are changing up our schedule a little bit in the summer so we can accommodate more like public shows and stuff versus school shows, but we still get a decent amount of bookings in the summer too. But as far as like budgety stuff and administration stuff, thankfully the planetarium itself is not really directly affected by federal things because we don't get a lot of our budget from federal funding. I need to run to get the train. However, a portion of my job is also connected to NASA and specifically the Space Sciences Lab and their Carruthers mission. So that is still a little uncertain in terms of funding. but it's all like most of the folks that we talk to that are related to NASA things, a lot of them are still very uncertain about the future of everything. So, um, yeah, but thankfully, I've gotten reassurance from my boss's boss that if we were to lose that portion of our funding, and I know Ellen also has some funding that's part of her job that comes from a different mission, they would try to find how to replace that so that we would still have 100% of our jobs at the planetarium and everything. So that's good. But yeah. But overall, things are going well. We're going to be doing a bunch of camp shows this summer. We're going to be expanding what we're offering to school groups. We were just offering our night sky show, but now we're going to offer all of our public shows basically. So we'll see how that goes.
So who's left? Do we have Alan?
Alan, did you have anything to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna stop my note taking. I'm not gonna take
That's what's
notes
new.
while I speak. Um, so anyway, yeah, let's see. Well, I'm still connected with the Lawrence Hall of Science, so I try and stay tuned to what's happening there. But I'm also connected at a bunch of other places. And one of the most interesting things that happened, oh, well, about the political questions, I could talk for a long time about that and probably shouldn't. Um, but
Opsis.
basically, I'm trying to stay as optimistic as possible. We're seeing tons of federal programs being cut and misinformation becoming coin of the land uh, by the administration. So, uh, and since we're only like 2 months in, we don't know where that's going. We have no idea what's going to happen. So everything is kind of in jeopardy or up in the air. Or I like to try to stay hopeful in that there, this is a heavily weighted administration was elected in the last election, and let's hope that they are able to succeed in what they envision, and that what they envision is not too destructive on the rest of us. So anyway, that's my view. But one of the most coolest things that happened recently was the Open Space Fest at Cal Academy. Let's see, were any of you? Was anybody there? Mary was there. Mary and I were there, and Benjamin was there. And I think they would probably agree with me that that was pretty valuable. What we had Micah and the people from the American Museum of Natural History in New York, where they are the collaborators on the development of open space, which is a software. And if you don't know what that is, it's where have you been hiding? The software. It's a software that is to basically it's a planetarium software where you should be able to see things from anywhere in the universe. I think that's the goal of it. And another key goal is to be able to import large databases of things and display them in a full dome environment. Those are things that it was designed to do and is supposed to do. One of the things in the past that it's had a hard time doing and is replicating the functions of a basic ground-based Earth planetarium, or the view from Earth, and doing the diurnal motion, and it could do all that, but to do the commands to do it were not as easy as in old-time planetariums. So, but a lot of improvements have been made along those lines, and it's now pretty easy to do that, I would say. But anyways, it was a real exciting event. And I wish I had a Windows computer where I could download and play with OpenSpace. But The latest Macs it does not work on. So I'm sad to report, but um, kind of on the lookout to see if they are able to develop something for Macintosh. The current chip of Macintosh. They had one for the old chips, but not the new ones. Okay, is there anything else?
Well, Mary just added in the chat that their funding is also uncertain, unfortunately, since they're NASA funded and need to apply for another 5 years.
Oh, yes, they are closely allied with NASA. So, yeah, I guess that's definitely part of that answer to that question. The whole open space project. Now, the saving grace there, just like the European Space Agency, I think Rosemary mentioned that if NASA resources become more unreliable, which I don't think they're becoming unreliable, actually, we would still, but if NASA missions or NASA programs start to drop away, we still have European Space Agency in terms of resources accessible. But yeah, Sweden, yeah, Mary is adding in. It's Megan and Micah who were there from AMNH, and she's saying that the university in Sweden, I forgot the name of it per se, but it's like the co-organizer, the co-producer of that software, and they're not affected by the federal funding at the United States, at least not directly. Um, I just saw a
Do you have more, Alan?
is no, let's see, who do I hand it off to?
I need to run, but I just wanted to mention one thing. This is Benjamin again. Um, you may not know it, but Adrian Toole over at San Francisco State University seems to have amassed a little money to renovate the Charles F. Hager Planetarium. So that's kind of good news since it hasn't had any real improvements since they built it. So I'll just leave that at that. We'll get more info on it later on.
um Benjamin, could you say that name again? I can put it in the note.
Adrian Cool is she's the retiring astronomy faculty who runs the planetarium at San Francisco State. And I've been working with her, and I got her connected with Phil Gross. So they're planning a little bit of a renovation. They're going to probably get a new star projector, and then they're working on a little bit of a digital system. And I think presently some folks at the academy, as well as myself, are kind of steering her toward open space. So good segue there.
Yeah. Okay, great.
And I just wanted to say that when we were talking about, I think it was Andrew was talking about, an old system still running Windows 7. My sound system, the system I use for the sound and for the Cove lights, is East Coast Control System, and that one is running Windows 98. It is a system we put in well over 20 years ago, maybe even close to 30 years ago. Maybe it's 26. Well, anyway, no, Windows 98. So it's probably like 1999, I think, is when we put it in. And boy, that computer is still working fine. We have it then talk to our Spitz ATM4, and then our Goto Kronos computers are 2005. I'm still going. So yeah, we just nurse things along, but that's also why I don't want some other folks just coming off the street to use the equipment, because they're not going to treat it with tender loving care, which is what I need for this to keep it going for another bunch of years. But yeah, that's what we do in the planetarium field. We don't have oodles of money, so we got to make sure everything just um, carries on with equipment that we have.
With digital systems, I think one thing that's been happening that I've heard from various planetariums, like in Wyoming and some other places that with a digital system, you can bring in high school students and they are better at it than we are. So with very little training. So that that's like a positive, that's a positive development that we could have a whole crew of younger people totally
Yeah, doing the programming. Yeah. Yep.
totally engaged with programming and presenting.
So we were talking about Mace America earlier, and I put Michael Doubt, who used to do shows, be a show producer for ENS. He is a rep for Change Worlds, and I get to see
He's
him
vice
every once in a while
president there
because,
now. Yep.
yeah. So James Hood has been working on his next show. He has two already, and so this is the third installment. So they're previewing it at our planetarium. So I get to see all of them and get to see the show evolving. It's really, really neat.
Mm.
So
So,
I put that in the chat for anybody who wanted.
so Alan, if you don't know about Mesmerica and these other programs, the idea is that they come in and they do everything. They do the advertisement, they do the ticket sales. I'm not quite sure. They said they would come to Alaska, and I don't know how that would work in our old planetarium, but that's the idea is that you get you get part of the money and they come in and do everything except, I guess, operate the equipment, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah.
was good to hear that they did such a good job advertising for um, for Nick's place. That was really encouraging to hear that you said that many people who never heard of the planetarium came to the planetarium.
Right, right. So yeah, they do a really good job of reaching out. The tickets that are about okay. Well, our regular public shows, we sell the tickets $8 for adults, $6 for seniors and children. With Mesmerica, they are selling tickets it's at least $30, if not closer to $38. So initially I was like, my God, that is just really expensive for what we have people coming, to the planetarium. And I didn't think that they would sell them that many tickets. They were all sold out. So yeah, and then we get a cut. We get $4.50, per ticket. So that helps with the budget there. Though all of our money goes into a general fund, for the college. It's not like it's reserved for the planetarium. Um, but yeah, it was surprising that they were able to get lots of folks still coming in, even with ticket prices that are, well, three times higher than what we sell our tickets for. Um, but yeah, they have their own little gift shop. They do it there in the little our planetarium lobby. They set little things on out there and have merchandise then for sale. And um,
What is the key in terms of the content of the show? What would you say are the two or three most important or impressive parts or aspects?
well, I mean, it's really good music, really good music. And say James Hood is the composer for it. And I'm not sure if he is the one that is also doing a lot of the visuals or not, but then the visuals are also really, really cool. They use a mixture of CGI worlds type of a thing or astronomy data sets. Sometimes there's some that you're flying through like the cosmic web. There's some that they create their own little plants, and you're in a almost like a conservatory arboretum. It looks something like that, but it's definitely artificial with all little lights going on up, and then you'll have some real abstract stuff. You think of MC Escher coming in and out, kaleidoscope types of things. So Yeah, I'd say it's just the whole mixture of things. But yeah, I'd see if you probably go to chainsworlds.org. I think Jeremy put that somewhere in the chat there. Or if you just look up Mesmerica, um, and you'll
Is
see a trailer.
is it full?
Full dome.
The imagery is full dome?
Oh yeah, it's full
And they
dome.
use what kind? Well, I mean, do they rely? I mean, do you have a full dome projector
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what kind? And so they'll fit any kind of projector.
Yeah, well, mine was the first Spitz Sidome one that they had done. So they had to do some reworking of, the coding or the codec, I guess, for it, so that it would work all right with our particular system. Because then they'll adjust the bit rates and of course the codec and all of that. But they got that working fine, and so then we were able to show it on our full dome system, and they had a fellow come out to make sure that things were working all right. Tested out the sound equipment, made sure we had all of the speakers working right, and so that was good to have really a sound expert come out to take a look at our system to get everything all balanced out, and then running the system. We did well. I'm not. I guess it wasn't FaceTime. It wasn't. Well, I guess maybe we're just doing it over the phone, talking with their visual guy that does all the um, formatting of that show for whatever system you have. They did that at the beginning, and so now it's like, yeah, I got it all set up, and so I have my script ready to go, and sort of just power up the system and introduce at the very beginning, and then everything goes from there. So, yeah, it's pretty nice, but yeah, they say they would love to have it going 365 days a year, and it's like, well, no, I have other things to do with my time than spending it every night there at the planetarium.
I just find it
Yeah, so
inspiring the idea of multi-dimensional artwork, multimedia, but all as an artwork.
yeah, and it's a combination of music and visual and a journey, through space, time, imagination, all of it. And it's fun to see the production because, they're working on, well, they have the guy who, gathers, they have many, many artists working on different pieces and person who puts it together and he does his thing too. And then James Hood is the one who does voiceover work and, the audio, and they have that really tuned. And yeah, that's one thing they look at when they go into any place is their sound system. They go and balance all of that. So um, can feel like your system's like, yeah, it's as good as it's gonna get. So
Um,
kind of reassuring that.
the movie itself is a little bit on the long side, or did you think
Let's see,
so,
it's about
Nick?
about 45 minutes, if I remember right. It's around there, maybe 43, 45, somewhere a minutes long. There's also for ours, there's a little pre-show as people are coming in and finding their seats. The way they do it here is that they also have, VIP rates. Those folks come in first, they get the good seats. And then they let the rest of the riffraff come on in, a little bit later. Um, but yeah, so the I guess the pre-show where you have sort of like this kaleidoscope type of a thing going on, and then with a little bit of it's softer music. Um, that's about 19 minutes long,
Mm.
for getting people into their seats, and then the show itself is 43 to 45 minutes long.
That's interesting. That related to the topic of how long should a planetarium experience be, but I guess it depends on the experience. Like when I first started working at Lawrence Hall of Science, they were giving 50-minute shows, live audience interactive programs. And that seemed reasonable. In fact, we'd often go up to an hour because if the audience was really into it. Um, but then things changed and we found it was better. It was better to do a shorter program, leave them wanting more, as they say.
Yeah, with the shows I do a live star tour at the beginning. It's 25 minutes to 30 minutes, I guess, is how the total on that one would be. And then I do an all dome film type of a thing. So I guess the entire show itself then would be about an hour long, and folks are fine with that. I mean, the just people just really just love being under a really nice looking starry sky. Um, just find that really relaxing, that away. And then if I'm just sort of pointing out different things on the sky, they seem to be okay with that. It's yeah, it takes about 25 to 30 minutes, I think, total, for that part. Sort of depends on how much, well, what's up in the sky, or any interesting constellations there. So
That's it's nice I can see just sitting in the planetarium with some nice music going, and that's it. Under a starry sky.
yeah.
Would I pay money for that? I don't know. Yeah,
All right.
actually,
Are we gonna continue on? We have more to talk about. I
I think we're close to a sign off point.
Yep, got 4:30 here or 4:27. So yeah, I got to take off. So it was good to talk with you
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
Thanks,
good.
everybody. Good to see you.
All right. Here. Next time.